Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Gary Shaw's Dracula Untold in 2014. So yes, here we are with another Dracula review. I've done quite a few of these now, the different versions. There are many, of course. The book, the story is one of the best, of course, and there's so many different versions, of this in cinema, mainly beginning, of course, with Nosferatu, 1922. But yes, of course, that was kind of an unofficial, basically telling of the story. For me, that is the finest, that's ever been made. My favourite, it's between that and Bram Stoker's Dracula by Coppola in '92. So yeah, that is, maybe in many ways, that film is a masterpiece. It's just not quite as good as Nosferatu. But yes, there's been many that I love, including, of course, the Hammer version. In the 50s, 58. And even one or two of the sequels. I enjoyed as well of that. So yes, this film, I didn't expect much. It's panned. Let's face it, and well, it's not got an awful score on IMDb, but it has, critically, it was not successful. Done really quite well at the box office. It's a success. But yeah, critically, it's not popular, and most people say this is bad. I didn't expect a horror film, more so, a blockbuster film, and that's what I got. It was definitely not, and it's not meant to be. It's kind of, it's not it's not taking the actual storyline of Bram Stoker's, novel, which is kind of set the late 1800s, around 1890, of course, and stuff. It's set before this. It's its own thing. It's kind of its own origin story, really. It's based, Vlad the Impaler, and played by Luke Evans, and he's basically the prince, and yeah, he's struggling. It shows his struggles with his armies and stuff, and he has to kind of go against the Turks in the film. The Sultan of the Turks basically makes a demand, and of 1,000 children, including the son of Vlad, and basically when he turns this down and he doesn't want to give up his son, it starts another war, and his wife Marina, is shown in the film as well, and it's basically that. And yeah, one of the highlights of the film is actually this master vampire who's played by the legendary Charles Dance, of course, just flawless in Game of Thrones and stuff. What an amazing actor. He's in the film, and actually he's very, very good. It's kind of a campy performance at times, but it's meant to be. But yes, he's in this cave. That's how it kind of it says something here, and it's basically this is how Dracula got his powers and stuff, and there's kind of a bargain there, and the main stuff involves Vlad going to this master vampire eventually, and saying, give me powers and stuff, it tempts him and stuff, and then basically he's got super strength and speed and all this kind of stuff, and of course if he doesn't feed within the 3 days, the curse is then lifted afterwards and he goes back to normal. But if he gives in and he kind of needs more than the 3 days, basically, then he has to be cursed forever. And that's basically setting in the storyline of Dracula and his misery and his suffering. So yes, basically it is themes of family and motivations there that make him Dracula. That is the whole point of the film. That's trying to make anyway. And this is the first film from Gary Shaw, this film, it's not bad, I don't think, like a lot of people say, it was surprisingly better than I thought it'd be, but in the end, it's kind of mediocre. I don't think it's a good film, I don't think it's a bad film, but yeah, I was kind of in places slightly compelled, the actual scenes involving Charles Dance, who maybe it's because he's such a great actor and stuff, but yeah, I was compelled by it, and some of the other parts, I think Luke Evans surprisingly is quite good actually as Vlad, slash Dracula. I think it was he was decent as far as kind of performances go, in this film. Him and Charles Dance, the only ones that are good, and I think Dominic was really, really miscast here, but yeah, nothing at all really here, as the Sultan, and yeah, I just think a lot of it was underwhelming. There's a lot of battle scenes, after the 30-minute mark, and that would be great if there was kind of because it's not meant to be a full-on horror film. It would be great if it's actually well done, but a lot of the time it is quite generic, the action, you know, lifeless, and some really, really odd choices here. You know, our character, our protagonist of Vlad, he gets these powers, and you know, at first it showcases this. You know, as he literally takes out hundreds of men all in one on this open battlefield. You know, there's some obstacles, but you know, it's basically an open battlefield, and he takes them all out, and then he pales them, of course, on the spikes. But then after this, it's never as easy for him to kind of take out any men, even if it's in the dark. You know, and you know, he struggles a lot. Some of his men get killed, and you know, he risks the lives of his men. But yeah, so I don't quite get that. You know, it's a bit weird to kind of show him in absolutely unstoppable, and you know, literally about to take out everyone, and then you know, it basically didn't make sense, the continuity of that. You know, it wasn't. I don't think it was that well thought out. You know, something could have happened. You know, in that first one to show, you know, it wasn't all, you know, kind of unstoppable. But yes, basically, you know, some of the battles after that are very, very, they don't mesh with the rest of the film in that sense. They don't really make sense. And actually, it is quite, you know, I think this is very toned down. You know, of course, yeah, to get kind of more revenue and stuff, so more people could see this. They lowered the ratings and stuff, and less blood and everything, and just you don't see quite as much, which could be, you know, done well by great filmmakers. But on this occasion, it's just, you know, even that, in that sense, the battles are toned down. They're a bit, you know, tame in that sense as well, and they're just not that well shot. You know, I mean, some of the action, the smaller pieces of action, you know, are actually not bad, but the big battles, you know, are quite underwhelming at times. And yeah, you know, I think the first half an hour is very, very cheesy in its romance and stuff, and the family scenes, that's pretty bad actually. You know, so yeah, it's got a lot of flaws, this one. You know, but it has got some decent elements. You know, I think the score is quite good. Ramin Djawadi does the score. Not his usual greatness, you know, the standards, but yeah, it was pretty good. And it, you know, it allowed it to be quite epic at times. But you know, this film, definitely one of the worst Dracula films I've seen. You know, it doesn't. It's fine. You know, it doesn't go for the kind of the same sort of telling of this. You know, the Bram Stoker version, but you know, it really it was something very different, basically, which is, you know, it's quite good. You can praise that. You know, at least they're not you know, trying to just do a modern remake of this in that sense. But you know, it was underwhelming, and there's no excuse for a lot of the bland stuff that happens in this film. You know, the flat moments, they're really just, they're very generic stuff. You know, the just literally taken from quite a lot of films. You know, and just, yeah, the overall, the family drama at first was pretty bad. You know, it's very, very cringy, and yeah, I think you know, a lot of the acting from the side characters is very, very bad. You know, it's kind of campy fun at times. You know, it does have somewhat of a charm to it. You know, I don't think this is an awful film overall. It really picks up after the first, you know, half an hour. But yeah, basically, it's a mediocre film, and I have to give it a 51%. You know, that's not a horrendous score for me. You know, I'm not sounding too annoyed, because you know, I think this is very, very panned, and yeah, it's not that I'm, you know, impressed with this film at all, really. You know, it has some redeeming things, but overall it falls short. It is under par, and you know, I think it's only 90 minutes. You know, but they managed to cram a lot of battles into this film, and you know, it does feel rushed at times. You know, but and as well, it kind of the way, you know, it's clearly made solely for money. This film, it seems very, very shortened and very, very toned down as well, for the ratings, and just, yeah, not a lot of effort put into quite a lot of the places. The script at times is not great. Other times, you know, the script is quite compelling, and you know, you've got some. Luke Evans is good in the film, I'd say. Yeah, I'll be honest, I think he was quite good. You know, the character, it portrayed Dracula in a, you know, kind of interesting way. Nothing comparable to a lot of the versions I've seen, in terms of that, and the tragedy of it all, and stuff. But yeah, as well, Charles Dance, the stuff with him was good, you know, mostly. But yeah, the ending line was really bad, you know, just stupid. But yeah, this film, it has campy charm. You know, it's not a film that really takes itself too seriously all the time. At times it does, and it doesn't really know how to create really compelling drama. So it does fall short. And overall, it just, yeah, it's not a good film. I think it's mediocre personally. But yeah, not an awful film. I was expecting to go in watching an absolute pile of garbage, but yeah, it wasn't that for me, and I can understand if people hate this, but yeah, I didn't like the film, but I didn't mind it overall really. I didn't say I really disliked it or anything. I just didn't really care for it that much, and it had some highlights, and overall it wasn't, as I say, it wasn't horrendous, but I wouldn't really recommend this. There's just so many other better versions of Dracula. Not just. I know this is very different. It's kind of an origin story. But yeah, I think there could definitely have been a better film origin story to Dracula, and you can just. This one is kind of forgettable at times, and it's not a good film for me, and a lot of flaws and kind of generic moments, bland characters, cheesy moments and stuff, cringiness, but yeah, and too many battles that are not to a standard. If a film can have loads of battles and action scenes. It can literally be, well, as proven with Mad Max Fury Road, mostly action throughout the film. And if it's great stuff, it can compel me, for how long it wants to. But this film, the battles, as I say, they're not that great at all. They're not good, mostly. But so yeah, it does suffer in that sense, and yeah, it's just mediocre. Nothing more to say really. Maybe check it out if you're a massive Dracula fan. But I don't expect much people will love the film. Clearly they don't. Because it has got a lot of low ratings, and it's panned. But yeah, it's not an awful film, and another Dracula film that I've kind of watched, and yeah. It's not my least favourite Dracula, but definitely not to the standards of so many great ones, including Nosferatu, Bram Stoker's, and the Hammer version of the 50s. So yeah, thanks for watching my review.